Oh shit, tape heads. It's part 2 of Make Us a Mixtape with Rob Tannenbaum of the book I Want My MTV. If you haven't already, subscribe, review, share us, and tell your friends. Email us at paulmartymix@gmail.com if you want us to talk about something. But let's just get right into it, eh? I want to shift gears, Rob, and talk about the 5 moments that you found as like the most pivotal. I think you described as most pivotal videos or influential videos.
Yeah, I'd say significant in not certainly not politically significant, but just in terms, within the conversation of the first decade of MTV. These are 5 songs that
But when you say first decade, what years are we talking about? 81 to 91 in your heart?
Yeah, that's sort of where we cut the book off.
Yeah.
91, 92.
There's not going to be a part 2 of the book with just all the reviews of Jersey Shore and things of that nature.
There were people who suggested it, but it's not a story I care about.
Yeah.
I was just going to say it will be written, but you would probably be like, eh.
I would love to read an oral history of Jersey Shore, in a magazine.
Yeah.
Or it would be bonkers, but I don't want to write it. I don't want to talk to people.
Yeah, that's a tough call. Then you kind of feel like the people deciding when they have to play the heavy metal instead of REM, like you described about your friend. But.
Yeah. So the first video is Duran Duran, and I cheated a little bit because it's 3 videos piled into one. The first video chronologically is Girls on Film.
Yes.
Which is, it's the video. It was made before MTV launched, so they made this to be shown in Europe. And there's nudity. There's a famous shot of the woman putting an ice cube on her nipple. MTV was not gonna play that. And so they played a heavily edited version of it. What Girls on Film did was establish this precedent that videos were about objectification and sexy women. It was shown in a lot of rock clubs when they, between bands, they would show videos.
I just remember my older brother had a friend who had that video on Betamax, and we found it, and I remember watching it on repeat, and I think that's when I discovered what sex was. I didn't know what it meant yet, but I was like, this seems like something I would like in about 7 years.
We call those like life-altering videos on the podcast that had made sexual awakening moments. Yeah, that's what we call them.
It was pre-sexual awakening for me, because I was like, why are they locking the door and watching this video? And then I was like, I bet you in 7 years I'm going to understand this. But,
You were Waldo. You were Waldo. Yeah.
But yeah, the other 2 tiers of you said Rio and Let's Save a Prayer, or what was the third?
No, so first is Girls on Film, and then Hungry Like the Wolf.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Which is the start of let's film in an exotic location. The band went to Sri Lanka. They spent like $200,000, which in those days was huge. There are beautiful girls in it. There's the slow motion shot of Simon Le Bon flipping over the table, which is like the first slow motion shot I think MTV had ever used. But the third video, which in some ways is the least interesting, is the most iconic, and that's Rio. Rio is the video that they shot in Antigua, and they're just playboys on a yacht wearing pastel-colored leather and vinyl Anthony Price suits, and completely unsmiling, but obviously having a better time than you are. In some ways, for horny 14-year-old boys, that was an aspirational video, right? And Duran Duran spent years trying to live down being the band on the yacht.
Yeah.
I was having a discussion this morning in preparation for this conversation. Is it a yacht or is it just a sailboat? Because everybody says yacht, but it's like,
I don't think it's when we say yacht nowadays, we picture a yacht. That was like a very nice sailboat, I think.
Wasn't that
these days you can land your plane on?
Yeah, chopper. Yeah.
There's going to be a bunch of people in Mar-a-Lago in Florida arguing with us right now, being like, God, these guys don't even fucking know the difference. Like, but I think that isn't that the video where they like put a budget where they're like, oh, we need to have multiple boats, and then it was just because one of the producers or directors wanted to rent a boat in Antigua. Yeah, that's.
So what's happened in the meantime? You know, so let me take a step back. When MTV begins, the executives go imploring to record companies, please give us videos. I know, like, I think we got 10 of them, but I don't know where they are. You know, let's get an intern.
Yeah, or like bands they were probably going to release or something out of their contracts, and they're like, oh, those weirdos made videos. Yeah, Devo, I guess. Yeah.
Well, that's true, and the bands that were visionaries pre-1981 got a lot of airplay in the early days. You know, the first video was the Buggles, famously.
Yeah.
But then, so the first couple of years, MTV was not very successful, or they had no way to measure their success because, you know, their ratings were less than zero. And there's the story in the book that I'm sure you guys remember, where a couple of the executives go to Tulsa, Oklahoma, and they go into a record store. You know, hey, what's going on here? What's selling? And the guy in the Tulsa record store says, we can't keep this Duran band in stock. Well, there was no radio station in Tulsa playing Duran. So, you know, the light bulb went on over their heads, and they race back to New York City, and they start saying to all these labels, if you make videos, you will sell more records. And they had proof of that. So that's when really the budgets start expanding. You know, now instead of, there was one early video, I think it was the REO Speedwagon videos. They were directed by the band's lighting director. Nothing against lighting directors, but, you know, it doesn't have any particular training for directing a little movie. Well, so once the money started rolling in, then everything changed and budgets opened up.
And it was so cool that it was like, it was almost like for like David Fincher and those types of directors, it was like such a cool, you know, like advertisement for them of like, I'll make this mini movie. And it is kind of like my calling card now, where I could be like, I'm the guy who did that. Because you saw a lot of those videos got parodied. Like if a video was popular, if that was the hot video, just wait a couple months and everybody will have like the Bon Jovi Wanted Dead or Alive or whatever with like the concert footage. And then, ooh, I'm on my tour, but I'm just like, I'm touring. It's so hard, but I'm doing it for my fans. Like I love those videos.
They were memes. Videos were memes in a way.
The thing about what you're talking about with the Tulsa situation is kind of funny, because I had an older brother who would buy albums. They listened to the radio with the AAA station here is WXRT in Chicago, and they would get the albums of all these bands like Psychedelic Furs, things like that, where there weren't a lot of videos. But I was a lot younger, and I would get my music taste from MTV. We didn't have MTV, but all my friends did. And I remember those Duran Duran videos, Hungry Like the Wolf, Rio, Save a Prayer, even all those videos like inspired me to become a Duran Duran fan, even though it wasn't like cool because it was like popular, and it was more popular to like the Police and Foreigner or REO Speedwagon. So they did have that influence, and Duran Duran, I think, was like the first band that was like, wow, like MTV can control taste in a way.
If you grew up in a house that had nothing but network TV, and then all of a sudden you had MTV, I mean, it didn't even seem like they were both television because they had nothing in common. And yeah, you know, it showed kids how to dress. It showed them, for better or worse, you know, not caring is cool. Being indifferent is cool. We mentioned the androgyny part, which was huge. Where else were gay kids in the Midwest, or even in New York City, going to find messages that androgyny was cool?
Yeah, I loved a lot of those stories you'll hear of people who like went on vacation and the place they were staying or the hotel had MTV, and they were like, I spent my whole vacation watching MTV. And my parents were like, but go outside. It's like, no, I have this MTV that I don't have at home. I have to watch this.
Lenny Kravitz. He
Yeah,
was
yeah.
he
That's
was
it.
on vacation with his parents. And
Yeah.
go outside, you know, we're in a beautiful, I think that maybe they were in the Virgin Islands.
Yeah.
It's beautiful, go outside.
No.
I want to see
I
Pat
have to wait
Benatar.
another hour to hear Hot for Teacher again or
Yeah.
something like that.
Well, that's the thing. Like we didn't have MTV, so like I would look forward to going to my cousin's house because they lived, and like you said, the second markets, like they lived in Joliet, Illinois, and those places, the cable companies were like everyone got MTV, and in Chicago it cost extra, or we couldn't get it in the suburbs where we were. So I would look forward to going there because I would just sit and watch every video, even if I hated the song, I would just wait it out. I'm like, oh, it's, 3 minutes is a lot of time for a kid, but you still were like, I don't like this, but I'm gonna watch it because it's still like visually stimulating.
Yeah.
Now, Rob, with those early videos, especially, when and this is in the 80s when there was like things like Satanic Panic and a lot of these parents groups protesting everything. I mean, MTV must have every day had some group coming at them of like, you can't play this during the day when my children are, watching TV. They had a lot of like, I mean, they seem to have so many fires. That was just one of them, of just like these parents groups, or like the idea that some religious, guy with a lot of clout can be like, you're not letting Guns N' Roses on MTV, and MTV's like, okay, you're right. And then finally they're just like, we got to play these guys. Like, I'm sorry.
Well, especially as MTV became bigger and started having, national brands as sponsors. Like once you get Coke or Pepsi to advertise, everything changes because now you're making your money by not pissing off Coke or Pepsi.
Yep.
And so the videos were screened very heavily. There were artists and directors who used the word censored. MTV censored my video. MTV banned my video. Well, they didn't ban it. They just didn't play it. Or they sent it back. There was a conversation in the book where the person who's screening MTV videos, screening videos on behalf of MTV and has a dialogue with the record company, she thinks she sees a nipple at one point. And they have this fight with the record company. Is that a nipple or isn't it a nipple?
Yeah.
So they were not going to take any chances by pushing the envelope in terms of sexuality. They would do it in other things, but this is the United States. It's a puritanical country. You can get away with lots of stuff. You can get away with violence. You just can't get away with sex.
It was funny how they were like the tastemakers in a way of what can be played and what will turn people away. And I think that's the next video that you talked about was the most shocking thing. One of the most shocking things for me that I learned was the fear of playing Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
And I think that's your next significant video. Is that how you quote? Did I quote it right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it's significant because among other things, it saves MTV, like literally saves them from going out of business.
And we're talking about the Billie Jean video by Michael Jackson.
82, 83, they were running out of money. Certainly by late 83, they were running out of money. And there were conversations like, maybe we can't keep doing this. They'd already gone back to the board a couple of times and asked for more money. And I think there was a feeling that we can't do this again. They've reached the end of their checkbook.
So they ran out of money. They couldn't get any more money from the mom and dad.
Thank you. So there was, as a parallel story, there was this controversy, was MTV racist? And a lot of the people who worked at MTV came from AOR radio, FM radio, which was very stratified. You heard Jimi Hendrix. Jimi Hendrix was just about the only Black person you heard on FM radio. And so when they were defending themselves against increasing accusations that they were racist, they would say, this is just the type of music we play. We play rock and roll. When Black people give us a rock and roll video, we'll play it. The problem with that argument was then they were playing Wham and Culture Club and Hall and Oates,
right.
which is two white guys singing black music.
Right.
So now what's your excuse? And fortunately for them, here comes Michael Jackson, an extremely ambitious person who's very, grew up in the business and understands emerging industry trends. And he knows that having a big video is going to be important for him. Now, this is where the biggest debates and arguments in the book take place.
Right.
Because everyone at Jackson's record company, his managers, they all swear that MTV refused to play Billie Jean. The guys at MTV, and really is guys at that point, they swear, oh, that's bull. I don't know.
Yeah.
I swear that's BS. With the second we saw it, we loved it. It's a he says, she says thing. It's hard to know for sure. I did some research, and Billboard used to have a music video chart, which was only what MTV reported. It wasn't what they actually played. MTV didn't jump on this video early. They played it a little late, and they played it in light rotation. At least that's what they reported until the song started to catch on. The Billie Jean video was the fanciest, most professional, most expensive video anyone had made at that point. And its success, not only for Michael Jackson, but for MTV, it put them into the black instead of into the red. And it also showed them, the lesson, which was a lesson they were going to learn again a few years later, was we can program black artists on this network. And, so you saw the Lionel Richie videos and some other videos as well. Donna Summer, I think, got some decent airplay.
Well, here's the thing, and like you said, it was one of those he said, she said moments, and you guys gave everyone an opportunity to give their story. And like you went back and you look at the Billboard, but one thing I didn't see in the book, and I don't know if you remember this, but when Billie Jean came out, I didn't have MTV, but there was a thing called Friday Night Videos on NBC. On NBC. Did that also force their hand? Because no one used that as an excuse either. I know that some of those places were playing Billie Jean, and I don't know the timeline matches up, but that's where I saw a lot of the videos for the first time. And then I'd go on the weekend to my cousin's house and I'd see it like 5 times more in an hour. But
that's a good point, because early on, when MTV is the only game in town, they can do whatever they want. They don't have to worry about any competition. But their success spawned, not exactly imitators, because there wasn't another network, but there was Night Flight on USA, Friday Night Videos. There were a couple of other local, regional shows. So yeah, that put some pressure on them, because you don't want to lose an audience to your lesser competitor. You don't want to give your lesser competitor an opportunity to build up their brand equal to yours by playing something that you're ignoring.
Yeah, and you mentioned the reason for VH1 was to combat Ted Turner was going to come out with his own, video. So it's like, let's get that taken care of. But one of the things with Michael Jackson, where it was like when you read this book, there's those like, oh yeah, of course that happened. Like this idea that Michael Jackson just had a number at MTV and he would call and be like, you're not playing my video enough. Like, of course, these maniac musicians are like, wait a minute, I'll just call MTV, or like Axl Rose being like, hey, give my friend, let him host Headbangers Ball. All right, fine, come in for an audition. And he comes with them. Like that idea that these celebrities were like, yeah, I'm like, I use MTV, they use me, but also I can like call them and be like, you need to do this for me. You need to play my video more.
The artists, their MTV had leverage over 90% of the artists. And then there were the 10% who had leverage over MTV.
Yeah.
Someone in the book refers to Madonna Rules. There were artists who felt that Madonna was getting away with things in her video that they couldn't get away with. Well, guess what? She's Madonna.
Yeah, it's not all fair. Yeah.
You know, you're Bang Tango. You don't get to do that.
The thing about the Billie Jean video, and we talked about this on the podcast, I think last week or the week before. You look at that year, '83. This guy, and I wasn't a Michael Jackson fan back then, but you have to respect the art and all the things he did to make that video. At the same time, or roughly the same time, you have Van Halen and the video Jump, where it looks like they just had one camera and one, like, maybe 20 minutes. They're like, all right, you have 20 minutes, go record David Lee Roth being an idiot and trying to make Eddie Van Halen laugh. And those are both, like, I mean, if that's not the epitome of white privilege, I don't know what the fuck is. Like, it's just crazy. And again, I was a bigger Van Halen fan than Michael Jackson, but I mean, do these MTV guys, like, are they still standing by their story now, or will they just be like, on their deathbed, fess up and be like, all right, so we fucked up? Like, I don't know.
When the book was over, we heard from some people who didn't like how they were depicted. Steve Lukather from Toto, who, you know, gave a hilarious interview to Craig.
His lines were funny.
Yeah.
You know, and came on. You know, he hated MTV. It was one of the great quotes in the book. I think we named the chapter for it. I may as well have lit $100,000 on fire.
Yeah.
He sent an email. You know, I sent him a copy of the book, and he sent back an email. He hated it. He hated the book. Hated the way he came off. You know, Toto has sold 60 million records worldwide, and nobody ever talks about that. Some of the MTV executives, you know, it was a similar thing. There was one guy in particular, I won't name him because it's not fair. You know, it was a kind of a private conversation, but he's still mad that we told the other side of the story. He still insists. You know, it's at the point now where he could say, okay, yeah, you know, we had to have our arm twisted a little bit.
Right.
They swear up and down that
he can't even admit to saying, look, we fucked up, but it wasn't because of race. It was because we were worried about, you know, how it would translate in Alabama or whatever. Like, I find it fascinating that they would still hold their guns. I mean, and again, I want to give them the benefit of the doubt, but it's like, come on.
I think there was a point when the people who made the programming decisions there were just beleaguered. They were getting criticized from the left and from the right.
Yeah, it was a thankless job.
And they must have just felt like we can't please anybody.
Well, I think that the book does a great job of showing the sexism that was happening, and like you said, we talked about earlier with the video directors just giving it to the young women and then letting that blow up. But one of the great things, I think, which is the next video you have, is Like a Virgin by Madonna. And obviously the significance of that for Marty and I is probably not appropriate for this thing, but that was definitely...
Go ahead.
It was definitely a moment where I discovered, I mean, Like a Prayer for me was definitely an awakening, I would say, because back then we didn't have internet. For those kids and the younger people that don't understand, that's what we did.
I just love the idea of any of these videos.
Guys, it's 2021. You can say you jerked off to Madonna.
Oh, we often do. Don't worry, we often do. We're keeping it classy for you.
Yeah.
But I love the idea of, you know, like one of my favorite memories of all time, and it wasn't MTV, but when I think it was on Fox or something, after like The Simpsons or whatever, they premiered the Madonna Like a Prayer video, and it was the big Pepsi tie. And I remember my parents just being like, this is not all right and everything. And I love that idea, whether it's, you know, Like a Virgin, just it must have drove those people so crazy. The people that were all for censoring everything or whatever. And now in the middle of the afternoon, your kid could just turn on a TV and Madonna's singing Like a Virgin. Like, to me, that is just hilarious. I think that's so funny.
You know, like you mentioned the Like a Prayer video. Like a Prayer is a better video than Like a Virgin.
Absolutely, yeah.
But Like a Prayer comes, I don't know, the peak of Madonna's commercial and artistic career, or close to the peak. And she had earlier videos that are pretty great. I think Borderline was the one with Jelly Bean Benitez, where she spray paints graffiti on a guy's race car.
Yeah.
You know, and that was pretty great too. To me, the significance of like a virgin, you know, there's the exotic locale again, right? They're in the canals of Venice, Italy. They spent a lot of money on the video, but mostly it's because that's the video that solidifies, that establishes Madonna as just a sexy top 40 superstar. You know, look, I'll admit the picture on the back cover of the second album, where she's sitting in black and white, she's sitting on the bed rolling down her stockings.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. I mean, you know, I was old enough that it didn't change my life, but it inspired me.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't like her music at that time. And I'm talking about Like a Prayer time, and when she was doing the video, but then I remember I had more pictures of her than I had of my favorite band in my room. It was just, I mean, I know it's not right to objectify women now, but I was 14 years old, so it was okay.
It was okay in the 80s to objectify.
Yeah, but like right next to, you know, The Police was my favorite band. Marty doesn't like the band, but we're not going to get into that right now. But
Police are the greatest band of all time. But yeah, no, I think it's just interesting with those, like you said, it must have been such a cool moment if you were a band and you're like, oh, now we don't have to complain about the Madonna Rules. We get to use the Madonna Rules towards our advantage. And it was, you know, seeing some of those bands, and then they would push the envelope to where like Madonna was like, oh shit, now I got to do more stuff, you know. And there was the big, you know, debut videos of somebody, be it Michael Jackson or Madonna or, you know, Metallica or Guns N' Roses.
Well, talking about objectification, the Madonna video is different from the Duran Duran videos or the Warrant videos, because it's a woman objectifying herself, which, you know, becomes a very significant argument in feminist conversations. If you exploit your looks and your beauty and your sex appeal, is that feminist or is it anti-feminist? You know, and this Madonna leads into Camille Paglia, you know, all sorts of conversations throughout the 80s about women and femininity and sexism.
The three most qualified to talk about feminism and anti-feminism are three white guys right here. So, or 2.5 white guys. I don't know what you call them. You said that she was one of the artists that you wish you had. What was there a chance were you guys waiting to hear back from her, or was she kind of like never responded?
You know, it's inside baseball, but Craig and I both have very good relationships with Liz Rosenberg, who, you know, was Madonna's PR agent for years and years and years, and possibly still is, but I don't think so. And every couple of months we would call Liz, and Liz is a person who doesn't have a problem saying no. She said no to plenty of people. And Liz would say, I'll ask. And we wouldn't hear back. And, you know, or she would say, it's just not the right time. She's busy with something else. And, you know, and then we either ran out of time or, you know, also decided that we were asking out a woman who was always washing her hair on Friday night.
Yeah.
It was a soft no.
Right.
Yeah.
How many months, you said every 2 months you call, was it like the third call where you're like, I think she's just giving us she's still shampooing.
She's not that into us.
Yeah.
Was the answer.
Well, speaking of objectifying women and going a different direction, your next video, we've talked about this video quite often, Hot for Teacher by Van Halen. We looked back on the video recently, and there's so many subtle things in that are really funny. And it was great in the book that you described when they did the video, and at the end where David Lee Roth is driving with the kids and he almost crashes the hot rod. I mean, what, like a matter of I guess inches could have changed the projection of Van Halen and music videos in a lot of ways. I'm looking at it from a legal standpoint, but
you know, and it's in a way, Hot for Teacher is the apotheosis of objectification of women. You know, it's not just a woman; it's a teacher.
Yeah.
You know,
and it's not just men; it's kids.
Yeah.
Kids
Right,
are
yeah.
subject to
They're gonna get on it.
Yeah.
We gotta look up the word that you said about this, but I think I know what
Pinnacle.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, okay. Oh, yeah.
Marty's
Act-
from Indiana.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. The top, the tippy top.
I'll try to
I didn't
use
know
smaller
it.
words.
Smaller words. Yeah, I knew if I didn't know the word, Marty didn't know it. So
I put context clues together, and I knew that it was like a real good thing.
that's why you're the veteran rock journalist, and we're not. So
partly picking hot for teachers is a tip of the cap to, you know, that sorry, I was going to say ignominious. Is that too big?
We've talked about
we
this.
know that word.
We've talked about this. Let's be eating potatoes here.
It's the pinnacle of something ignominious. But also the video is just so clever and self-effacing. You know, you have the band doing this little choreographed dance routine, which they're just terrible at.
In a great way. That was a pop-up video I remember seeing. And they're like, watch Dave Van Halen. He's the worst at this. And everybody's kind of in motion, and he's like, well, what are we doing here?
You can almost
Alex has no rhythm, and he's the drummer.
Yeah,
he's the drummer, right? You can almost see them like checking one another, like, what do I do now? And I'm sure it was not difficult choreography. Yeah. Maybe it's difficult if you've been drinking 6 packs of Schlitz since 7 a.m.
Yeah, they're not exactly okay go in that video.
But then they did have this idea of finding little kids who look just like them. Wow. You know, and I love the fact that the kid who plays Eddie Van Halen is a girl. They couldn't find a boy who looked like Eddie. They had to use a girl.
Yeah,
I like the Michael Anthony character.
The Michael Anthony's the best one. It's like crazy. Yeah.
So Michael Anthony says in the book that by the end of the day or by the end of the shoot, the kid who was his double was acting just like him. You know, I think might have been smoking a cigarette and certainly was asking for beer.
Was it Van Halen who had that contest where you could come party with Van Halen and that dude almost died?
Yeah.
He was like already sick or something and won this like come party with Van Halen. Yeah. He had like a brain injury or something, and it was like he partied with Van Halen.
You know, so his name was Kurt Jeffries, and I interviewed him. It was, I think, the only interview in the book where when it was over, I felt bad.
Oh, wow.
And there was a little documentary that was made fairly recently in the last couple of years about Kurt. It's on YouTube. You guys.
I watched it right after I read that chapter.
You know, but the band and MTV conspired in corrupting these two, you know, what were they, 17, 18?
Yeah. One was definitely under 18.
Nobody knew that Kurt had a brain injury.
Yeah.
And, you know, he wasn't supposed to be drinking. And here they're just handing him bottles of Jack Daniels.
And then, I mean, there was indications that he also did some drugs. Hookers, and I mean...
They tried to get him laid. They sent a woman into the dressing room, and you know there was something involving a shower. I don't remember exactly what it was.
Wild times.
But that video, and it's funny because we did our favorite videos, and one that didn't make mine was Jump, because I liked Jump just because of the simplicity of it. Because every time they focused on Eddie Van Halen, he would just start smiling at the camera. Like, it was such a shitty video that it was strangely captivating. Whereas Hot for Teachers, like, I didn't really think anything of it until Marty started talking about it again. We went back and watched it. I was like, this is actually a really good video.
It's
you
great.
Can tell.
The Fast Times ending, it's great.
Very well done. Hot for Teacher also is significant because it's one of the main videos that triggers Tipper Gore and leads to the PMRC. Senate hearings, warning labels on records. You know, it's not the only thing that led to that, but it was one of the songs that Tipper Gore singled out. I think she said, "It scared my children." Well, I mean, if you have a son, trust me, that video didn't scare him.
If you do any research or watch any of those PMC testimony, you know, when people are, whether it's you know, all the musicians coming in or whatever, and you've got Twisted Sister's D. Snyder, who is just so funny with them, where he comes walking in full, like not full Twisted Sister gear, but like
enough.
Looks like a metalhead, looks like a dude who's into metal. And they thought they were going to just roast this dude and make him look like such an idiot. And he made Al Gore, you know, look so foolish. But it does talk about that panic at the time in the 80s of like, kids are killing themselves because of these videos. It's sexual. But they were like claiming stuff. I always think with that, like, if they would hire guys like us, we could be like, well, here's the real sexual stuff. They always get it wrong. They always get the violence wrong. And it's like, because whenever anybody goes after wrestling when I was a kid, I'm like, that's all wrong. But if they would have come to me, I could have been like, well, here's what Vince McMahon said that you should really be focusing on. But they were so out of touch. Yeah. And the way they like tried to attack MTV, it was so easy for them to just feel like, that's not what we do.
So I had a short list or a long list for the 5 videos I was going to pick. And it was going to be either Hot for Teacher, or Wanted Dead or Alive, which you guys talked about.
Classic.
Or it was going to be We're Not Going to Take It by Twisted Sister.
Yeah.
Which, you know, is one of the earliest videos that has dialogue in it, plot, a cameo. It's
a real actor from a real movie that we knew.
Right.
Yeah. I always thought when a band did an opening, because like after the video had been out for a while, they cut all the intro and they go right to the video. But when a video first came out and it had like a little cinematic opening, I always thought I was getting like so much more for my value, where I'm like, not only are we getting an Aerosmith video, but there's a whole weird story before it. Like I was blown away.
I just watched a movie.
Yeah.
I love with the Hot for Teacher when they did the follow-up, how much of an asshole the actor was that played it. And he was like mad. He's like, I'll take it because he needs to go back home to visit his family or something that wouldn't talk to him.
Yeah.
It's like,
there's one other funny thing about Twisted Sister. You know, they were a Long Island band before they got signed to Atlantic Records. They were a Long Island band for years and years and years that just couldn't get out of the clubs. And if you're about my age and you grew up listening to radio in the New York City area, twice an hour you heard advertisements for some Twisted Sister. So I never knew anything about them. You know, I didn't really follow metal and I didn't live on Long Island, but it was just, to those of us from the East Coast, it was weird because suddenly this band has just been lingering for 10 years. They're superstars.
Yeah, we have bands like that in Chicago that played all the festivals, and I assume it would be like that. You're just like, oh, they're like the biggest band in the world. Like they're huge now. Like that's crazy. I could have saw them at like this music venue by my house. They're there every weekend. It's, you know, without fail, the Twisted Sister's on the bill.
For people from Cleveland, it's the Michael Stanley Band.
Okay.
What do you mean you've never seen the Michael Stanley Band? They're superstars in Cleveland.
Yeah. Like, I don't know, man. I don't know who you're talking about.
Sorry.
We have Local H.
Yeah, a Local H is ours, where it's like they played every festival and everything.
Yeah. Scott Lucas is on every show. Even during the quarantine, he managed to have a show. Huh? Yeah, he's great. Well, we were talking about parents not getting it right. And that brings us to our last video, which you put as parents just don't understand.
Right. Well, I'm going to cheat again because I want to talk about 2 videos. You know, so we talked about Ted Demme. Ted Demme was an intern. A lot of the history that was made at MTV was made by interns. And, you know, that was one reason why people said to us over and over again, it was the best job I ever had.
Yeah, you heard that a lot in the book.
If you were 22 or 23, you could be in charge of stuff. You could be in charge of production within 18 months. You know, it's a little bit like, you know, the old Hollywood movie where, like, you kid, come here.
Yeah.
You know how to run a spotlight? You know how to run a camera? And so Ted Demme just keeps, you know, this white kid who loves hip hop. And also Peter Dougherty, who gave us a great interview and was a lovely, lovely guy and has since died. So I want to make sure he gets credit also. But, you know, what the executives remember was Ted. Every single week, can I do a rap show? Can I do a rap show? Can I do a rap show? And one of the things that warms them up, that warms up MTV, is the Walk This Way video, which comes out in 1986. So it's a collaboration between Aerosmith, who recorded the original song, and Run DMC. Walk This Way was a breakbeat that Run DMC had been using for years, but they didn't even know who it was. They just knew it was this song called Walk This Way. And in the video, I mean, it's so artless. In the video, they literally knock down the wall.
Yeah, very subtle.
Run DMC and Aerosmith. And then, you know, they kind of stare at one another a little bit, and they rock the hell out. So MTV played that, you know, and it was a way for them to say, we're not racist. We play these guys Run DMC. We play the Run and the DMC. Mm-hmm. But you know, they played it because Aerosmith was in it. Parents Just Don't Understand, Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince. That's a significant video because it's so safe. Mm-hmm. It's a colorful video, and I mean like literally colorful video. It's a cute story song.
Yeah.
It's got Will Smith, you know, who nobody knew it at the time, was going to become one of, if not the biggest movie stars of all time. It's, you know, it's got a sense of humor. It's a little bit self-effacing, and MTV is able to program this again as a way of, here's some hip hop music, but Pepsi isn't going to get upset at it. The video comes out in 1988, I think spring 1988, but I'm not sure. Yo MTV Raps, you know, no one could really remember the exact date, but it's sort of August 1988. And Parents Just Don't Understand is one of the first, was one of the videos that's in the original show. Now, you probably remember this from the book. MTV finally said to Demi, okay, fine, shut up, do your rap show. We're gonna put it on at 2:00 in the morning on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
Well, everybody wakes up the next day and they get ratings. They get the ratings report. And it's not just the biggest overnight audience MTV has ever had. It's one of their biggest shares ever. So again, they are forced to learn this lesson. We can put Black people on MTV and it won't scare our white viewers. And there ended up being, I think it's 1,830 episodes of Yo MTV Raps. Wow. It was on every weekday.
Yep.
It was on once on the weekends. They repeated it. I think Fab Five Freddy said to me they wanted to do a show on Saturday and a show on Sunday, and I told them no, that's just too much.
Yeah, I love there's so many stories at MTV about like the middle of the night video that got all the phone calls, or the middle of the night show that was like, I guess we had, and it almost is their force because they know they're going to make money. So it makes the decision a little easier if they're like 1,000 people called at 1 a.m. when we played Welcome to the Jungle. Like, I think we need to play these guys. And with Yo MTV Raps, I remember I talked about it on the podcast. I had summer school and then I would come home, perfect timing. Yo MTV Raps would come on. And I just remember watching that being like, what they were all just, every video was video after video. I was blown away by, and I know there are a lot of cheesy ones now you watch, but like, I mean, I even liked they're playing basketball video. I just thought like all these old videos are just so cool. And then we start to get into like gangster rap. And I was like, take all my money. I'm into all of this. Cause one of my videos was Fight the Power. Cause I saw Fight the Power and I'm like, this is crazy. Like, to me, I told Paul, it was like the most Black people I've ever seen on my TV at one time. And you see this whole other world out there from MTV Raps.
That's the power of mass media, really. You mentioned Guns N' Roses. Yeah, I think it was Welcome to the Jungle, which was the video.
Yeah.
It's funny to remember. I was writing something the other day, and I said that you can sell a lot of records by imitating the sound of yesterday, but you can only sell millions and millions of records by ignoring the zeitgeist and remaking it in your image. From the Beatles to Madonna, and certainly Guns N' Roses. So now Guns N' Roses are famous. When that record came out, it seemed like just another hair metal band.
Yeah.
And it got no attention, certainly no radio airplay. Rolling Stone didn't even review it.
Yeah.
When it came out.
I mean, that's.
But and there was one person, I can't remember. I wish I remembered who it was, but I don't. There was one person at MTV who believed in Guns N' Roses. And it's a little bit like the Ted Demme story. Okay, fine, shut up. We'll play at 2 a.m.
Literally, the same thing happens with Nirvana, where a woman's like, play this video, fire me if it bombs, but I guarantee this will be huge.
Right.
And the thing with, and like what you said with Guns N' Roses, that I had You Could Be Mine as one of my top videos because I was late to the Guns N' Roses game. I thought they were just a hair metal band. And then I spent time with Appetite, and I was like, this is a great album. And then I'd watch the videos again, and I was like, wow, like there's so much going on in these cool videos. And then of course, 1 in a Million came out. I was like, maybe these guys are dicks.
I felt like because for me, I loved MTV Raps, but I also loved Headbangers Ball, and I loved 120 Minutes. I loved those like fringier shows. And I was so proud of my bands when they came off 120 Minutes or off Headbangers Ball or MTV Raps and became like household mainstream names. It felt like me, it was almost like picking like an athlete when they came out of high school, and you're just like, they've always been my guy, and then they succeed, and it's just such a cool feeling.
Or someone you see play in the minor leagues.
Yeah. And all of a sudden you're like, they're the biggest band in the world.
See, I was the opposite. I'd get upset when they'd sell out. I'd be the guy like now everybody knows.
That's next. That's like, you go proud to like, hey, I don't like that everybody likes my band.
Yeah, I was the opposite. I got really mad when bands got bigger, and
I like their early work better.
Yeah, their early videos better.
I was the music insider that was like, well, you really need to go appreciate the Bends by Radiohead or whatever.
So with our what's the last song?
That was the last song.
Prince was another guy too, where it was just like, your parents would be like, I remember my cousin, her bedroom, wall-to-wall Prince, and my dad was just like, I can't believe my brother lets her have all those Prince posters up. And it was another gender bender, like him in the bathtub. My dad just couldn't deal with that photo.
The Prince stories in the book are pretty crazy. After he died, Craig and I thought, we even wrote a proposal. This time we wrote a proposal for an oral history of Prince. But it became clear that, there were 8 other people working on Prince books, and there would be a glut of them. But one of my favorite stories in the book is there's a producer who goes to Prince's house for a meeting. They're going to meet about a video. And Prince is hours late. And he comes out of the bedroom, and he's wearing a red high-heel shoe on his right foot and a yellow high-heeled shoe on his left foot. Okay. These guys have seen a lot of weird things, right? So he's just like, it's just another day at the office. And they're talking to Prince, and then he says, oh, will you excuse me for a second? He goes into his bedroom, and 20 minutes later, he comes out, and now he's got the red shoe on the left foot and the yellow shoe on the right foot. It's so bizarre and inexplicable and random, and it means nothing, but it's like, that's the 80s. Yeah. The 80s is having a red shoe on your right foot and a yellow shoe on your left foot. Right at the time that we were finishing the book, I'm not a huge Adam Ant fan, but I think I just happened to hear it on the radio, or it might have come up on Shuffle. And one of his songs, he sings, "Ridicule is nothing to be scared of." And, we made that a chapter title, because that's, in a way, if you had to boil the book down to a sentence, that's it. Ridicule is nothing to be scared of.
Yeah, I felt like a lot of bands would sort of follow the leader, like you said, where it's like, you could sell some albums if you do, the popular sounds. And one of the things that I loved about MTV was people did go away. And with social media and stuff, nobody goes away anymore unless they really actively go out of their way to go away.
Or they get permanently go to Wade.
Yeah, or society tells them to go away. But I think it was just interesting when you would see people, and they were either doing something new, which was always awesome, or that when people came back kind of following the trend. I remember as a kid being like, this is lame. I'm pretty sure I figured it out. I can't quite put my finger on it, but like something about this is lame. And whether it was somebody like wearing a flannel or, like now all of a sudden, now all of a sudden it's like, I love hip hop. What do you, or they have the hip hop artist on the song or whatever. And it's like, I know what you're doing. There seemed to be a lot of that of like follow the leader or whatever.
Well, when rap came out, it was, I've talked about this on the podcast before, where I was like, oh, this is a passing fad. And you'd hear Geddy Lee rapping and Roll the Bones on a Rush song. And you're like, this is weird. Why are they doing this? And then it just kept going and growing. And then MTV Raps made me be a lot like Marty. I got into gangster rap. I was like, this is amazing. But at first I thought it was a joke, with like Tone Loc and like Funky Cole Medina and stuff like that. I'm like, these guys they're just jokesters.
There's still people, David Crosby is one of them. It's not music. It's just talking over drums. Well, I mean, that's stupid.
Yeah. I think, and then sort of wrapping things up a little bit, we'll go to sort of the death of the music video in TV Guide era. And you'd mentioned, and this is like great info for people who are like, why don't they just play videos all the time? I mean, there's numerous reasons, but for the time being, when they were transitioning sort of from all videos to some of these shows, they put out remote control and they start to realize like, oh, we can make these low budget shows and more people tune in than just waiting around for their, to see the Madonna video again.
When we talk to people about what do you miss about MTV? Could it ever be done again? Person after person after person slammed Jersey Shore. Now, this was 11, 12 years ago. It was one of the biggest shows in the world. But it was almost like people thought Jersey Shore had ended music videos.
Yeah.
But it didn't. I mean, it's sort of the real world that ends music videos. The game show, they kind of incorporated videos into it, right?
At the end, you had to name all your videos. That was the big finale. You had to go around that big wall and name all the videos.
It seemed like a natural extension of playing videos. But the real world, no. It's got nothing to do with anything we do, except that, it does, because what MTV realized was we're not a music channel, we're a youth culture channel.
Yeah. And
music video is only one part of youth culture. Youth culture is changing, and we have to change too. There were people, at one point I was keeping track of the number of MTV is dead stories that I read. Some of them from like 1983, and MTV is passé now. And certainly around the time of before Jersey Shore, you can find, lots of MTV is dead articles. Well, then they found Jersey Shore. Now, I'm not so sure. Now I think, I think MTV might be dead. Yeah. But look, it has nothing to do with me. They have nothing that I'm the least bit interested in. I know that there's a show where a bunch of morons look at videos, like slapstick videos, and they all laugh about it.
Ridiculousness.
Yeah. There's a lot of shows like that. Have you watched any of the recent VMAs?
I think I usually watch it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's something I've tried to watch, and I'm just like, oh, this is just not for me anymore. It's wild. Like I kind of say, like, if you watch Saturday Night Live and you don't know who the guest is and the musical guest, like that's like, you're getting out of touch, And with the VMAs, I'm just like, I don't know who any of these people are or whatever. I imagine now if there was MTV the way we knew it, or sort of at the tail end, it would be like a lot of K-pop bands on like, Dial MTV or TRL and stuff like that. Like But again, like you said, it's just like I look at it now and it's just, and they play reruns of like weird shows that weren't on there. It's just a different network.
There were people who were nostalgic for MTV, and there was a lot of I wish it would come back, and then there were people who said it can't come back. Mm-hmm. And in a way, it doesn't need to come back because all those videos are on YouTube. Right. If you want to watch it, go watch them on YouTube. And when people would say to me, I wish those videos were back, and okay, when was the last time you went on YouTube and looked at a video? Well, I don't really, right? Yeah. Because they weren't nostalgic for MTV or music videos. They were nostalgic for their youth.
Yeah. Yep. And that's the thing. I was talking to Marty earlier. I was in Florida for a period of time, and they do have a music video channel, but the videos that were coming on, I didn't know any of the artists. And it was kind of like an MTV where it would go from like, these like boy bands, and then they'd go to this like emo band, or what I thought was emo band. I'm like, what is going on? What am I watching? And it was like a local MTV show, but it was crazy. And I was like, I don't see how I would ever do this as an adult. As a child, it is your youth that you're longing for, and it's like we're not going to get that back as much as we try.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think us as a culture too will sit through 5 videos we don't like to get to the one we do. Like that's just not in our DNA anymore. We want everything the way we want it. And it's like the idea that I have to sit through 4 or 5 videos and commercials to get to my video is like, you can't expect people to do that nowadays. And you mentioned YouTube. Oh, go ahead.
People make their own programming.
They really do, because I'll go on YouTube and I love watching old videos and new videos on YouTube. And I'll see one and I'll go, oh, this looks interesting. I'll look and it'll have like 58 million views. And I've never heard of this band. They're great. The video's awesome. I've never heard of them, but 58 million other people have. So it's like people are getting their music one way or another.
Marty just learned who Justin Bieber was last week. So
no, there are some like legit videos with so many views that you're just like, I've never heard of this band. And you can look and see they're touring, and it's like they're doing they're like, before Corona, they were doing like smaller music venues. So it's still out there. But like you said, you just want to be on your couch in your basement, taken back to that time or whatever.
And I think that's one reason, look, I'm very pleased that you guys enjoyed the book so much. But I also know that a lot of the enjoyment that people have about the book, it's not about the book, it's just about that time of their life. So are we guilty of exploiting sad nostalgia? Yes. Sorry, the check's cleared.
Yeah, no, it was good. It wasn't I don't think it was an easy payday or anything like that. The research was awesome.
Yeah.
So many stories that I find myself quoting to other people, and this podcast, we talk about it so much. So congrats on an awesome book. It was, I'm sure it was tough. I would assume you probably felt like a maniac with all these, like I pictured that your setup was like these little quotes all over, and just like, wait, didn't someone say something about Ted Demme? We got to find that clip. And you're just like pouring through all these old interviews and stuff.
Let me just say, in the end notes of the book, we thanked a number of products. I think Craig thanked Diet Coke.
Mm-hmm.
I thanked Scrivener, which is a software program that is like a super advanced version of Microsoft Word. And we could not have done this book without Scrivener.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Oh yeah, here I see it right here. And Valium and Wellbutrin you also thank.
Yes.
Very cool. Rob, before we get cut off, thank you so much for doing the show. I cannot wait for the WWE book. I'll have to bother you about that.
Please come back. If you want to come back and you want to talk more about anything music related, we'd love to have you back. Where can people find out more about your stuff and what you're doing coming up?
I guess on Twitter, I'm Tannenbaum R on Twitter. There was already an R Tannenbaum and a Rob Tannenbaum. Fuck those guys.
Well, thank you to the real Rob Tannenbaum for being on the show.
Yeah.
And thank you so much, Rob.
We appreciate it, Rob. Thank you.
Marty, this was a lot of fun. Thank you.